Hello, hello. This is Blue coming to you live with a test recording for our unnamed podcast. Each member here is a color. I am taking blue. And when we record together, you'll hear different colors of the spectrum. Otherwise, you'll see different colors of the spectrum, rather. So today is a solo episode, therefore it's blue. You get to hear the blues. I'm a blue, I'm a D, I'm a da, or however that song goes. And more about who I am as a person. So personal background, kind of an elevator pitch of sorts. Professionally, I am a logistics and operations guy by trade, 7+ years working experience. Volunteered with some of the premier organizations in the logistics space, CSCMP and APEX. Volunteered with them as well as been involved with them for quite some time. I've since slowed down, but one day I'll join back in. Outside of that, I've been volunteering with incarcerated individuals, so it's a different side of service involving myself in the community. So it's different, but it has its own rewards. You go in and you don't expect as much out of it. So that's my professional background, where I mainly work in operations these days. I used to be in sales and the transportation side of the industry. I went to school where part of my education was transportation, but just logistics as a whole. And then I've been around logistics since high school, and really and truly everything's about logistics when it boils down to it. So the goal of this is just to understand where I'm coming from when I say things. It's not that I am right. I'm actually feel like I'm wrong about a lot of things, but I study things. I study patterns. I'm in the movement business, so I pay attention to meta patterns, how things move, what's said, what's not said. And this is a segue into why we're here today. And the central question is, can you trust people? And if so, who and how? And there's a Russian proverb that is "Duvernay au Provenay," or basically trust but verify, famously quoted by Ronald Reagan during a state visit, JFK during a state visit. Why does this matter? It matters in business, matters in society, or matters in your daily life more than you may be aware of. Specifically, business, who to trust, who not to trust. Am I getting screwed? Am I not getting screwed? Protecting your bottom line, protecting your customer's bottom line, protecting the consumer's bottom line. It's in your interest as a business or a business person to do so. Society at large, it's said that we're operating in a post-truth world. And then even in your personal life, just making sure that somebody isn't pulling the wool over your eyes. You're not stepping to the Kansas City Shuffle. You're not getting got, to put it colloquially. Moving forward into some of the historical context of why this is particularly important, especially in American culture. I don't know as much about the rest of the world, but there is a noted shift. So post 9/11, the world changed. This is evidenced by Thomas Friedman's "The World is Flat," where the trust in the government was shaky. You had things like Watergate, the Clinton scandal, some other challenges to the system or the man, namely during the Vietnam era and the counterculture movement. But for the most part, there was still a trust in the government. There was still a sense of American exceptionalism or idealism in the world. And that all changed with 9/11 and then the Iraq War. And it's funny how Green Day puts out an album called American Idiot, and it is the soundtrack of the downfall of America as we know it, the downfall of the nuclear family across society at large, downfall of trust and authority at large, downfall in feeling like things are going to be okay, or things are always going to work out even when things are going horrible. So that's just the cultural context we're in. And then it feel like it became real during the financial crisis. and then got hit with an exclamation point when Trump, fake news, deep fakes all came to light in the mid 2010s. So suddenly you go from you can't trust the government, you can't trust the monetary system, you can't trust the one part of the federal government in the executive branch, and for them to be presidential. And then you can't trust the news even more than you couldn't trust the news. And now even the things that you're seeing with your own eyeballs on videos, all of that gone. And I'm sitting here in 2025 and AI is getting more and more advanced as time goes on. It's getting better and better at doing the things that we ask it to do. It's very different than the baseline of the Vietnam era, where even though there was a challenge to the system, there's still this understanding that the government could be trusted on some level. And philosophically, from a philosophical historical angle, going back centuries, this reminds me of what we're dealing with. It reminds me of the Gutenberg press and the Copernicus Galileo situation. So with Copernicus and Galileo, Copernicus was under the idea that we were under a geocentric model of planetary movement, or that planets revolved around the Earth, the sun revolved around the Earth. I'm saying this now, and the audience is like, who would ever say something like that? That was science 500 years ago or so. And Galileo Galilei, he's mapping it out. He's doing his work, doing the process of science. Where in the scientific method, it's designed to question things. It's designed to find answers. It's not necessarily that you should believe those answers. And science is always to be challenged. And that's its own conversation for another episode. But Galileo challenged the institution of what Copernicus was saying, and in effect challenged the Catholic Church. And it cost Galileo his life for doing that. In a similar way, you have the Gutenberg press, where prior to the advent of the movable type and being able to rapid fire print books, knowledge for the masses, the common person, especially religious knowledge, was something that was tied up with the elite, was tied up with those that had the leisure time to read a book. Just a quick anecdote. If you're an agricultural worker or a farmer, you're up early. You have to tend to the animals. You have to tend to the fields. You have to make sure everything's watered, fed, any repairs that need to be done. And that all has to be done while the weather is good for whatever task. If it's planting season, you have to prepare the soil, plant. If it's during growing season, you have to make sure that everything's weeded. If it's harvest season, you got to make sure you're eating everything. When it's winter, you're just trying not to die. Very little time for the common person to have education. This is something that is more explored in the sharecropping South, especially the Black community, where their parents were choosing between, do we eat this winter by having you in school during the fall, or because we need the extra hands, or do I send you to go to school and have a chance at a better education? That was the existential choice that was being made. And I'm going to leave that there, or take that microcosm and elevate it up back to, this is the world at large. It wasn't just a small community of rural farmers in the American South, but this was the world system at the time, or at least the European world, unless you were an artisan, a merchant, in a class that's non-agricultural worker or non-day laborer. So this system was also controlled by the Catholic Church. And I'm not saying this to cast the Catholic Church. I'm just saying I'm going somewhere with it. So at that time, control of information was highly centralized. And then this thing happened called the Protestant Reformation, kicked off by Martin Luther, kicked off by people having more access to knowledge to be able to run the scientific method, to be able to question, to be able to think. And this also ties into the Industrial Revolution, where everybody isn't just trying to survive and you're going up Maslow's hierarchy of need. So this results in that Reformation, where basically now, religiously speaking, in the West, you have the Catholic Church, you have the Eastern Orthodox, and then outside of that, in terms of Christianity, you're technically all Protestant. Fun fact, because it all stems from the schism of Martin Luther, and then from there you get Calvinism, Methodism, Baptist, what other offshoots. You're all technically Protestant, and it's like that may be lost on. Or if you don't know that, then it's like, oh well, no, you thank Martin Luther for the religious freedom. And even the Catholic Church should thank Martin Luther for the fact that the church changed a lot. The institution of the church changed a lot. The Catholic changed a lot because of his involvement. And the Catholic Church is still one of the biggest religions on earth, but it's not what it used to be, where it was an empire onto itself. So 2025, we're in the same boat where information is more decentralized. The Catholic Church controlled everything. It's let go. Similar way, 2025, this year, we have the advent of the internet. We have the questioning of things. And really and truly, it's more of not necessarily information itself, but the responsibility of it. With great responsibility comes great power. Yes, I did flip Uncle Ben's words. And the truth is that the individual must curate truth, because the state is not going to do it for you. The church is not going to do it for you. Other institutions that may have been relied on, yes, they could do it, or they should do it, especially if they're reporting that they are doing it. But the reality is that we as the individual have more power than ever to do so. So where does this leave us? We have 3 rules that can help with understanding and curating your own truth. Not to use the dog whistle term, but to use the dog whistle term, because just because the information is published, it does not mean that the author has your best intended art. They may have ulterior motives, and it's up to us to do that. So how do we do it? First, trust but verify. Second, look for proof. Third, question the urgency of what you're hearing. First, trust but verify. Now, this is going to sound counterintuitive in the way that this comes out, but you can't believe everything you read. But at the same time, try to give that person the benefit of the doubt. You don't want to be so paranoid that you can't trust anything, because that is a paralytic. But cross-reference things, fact-check things, make sure that they do make sense. They do line up with things you already know. So, for example, 2 + 2 is 4. If somebody tells you 2 + 2 is 5, you should definitely be skeptical of that. If someone tells you, I threw an object into the air and it does not come down, you have to ask a lot of questions. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't an explanation for it. What if that object that was thrown was a balloon full of helium? Suddenly, the idea that what goes up must come down, as useful as that heuristic is, it's not useful in that case. So be open to listening, to critically thinking through things, and not believing everything you read, but also giving that person a chance. Next, look for proof. So in the education system for business, university, everyone goes through entry-level accounting classes. And one of the first things they teach us is the idea of double entry bookkeeping, where if something is subtracted from one account, there should be something else in the other account. To put it in, I can't remember who said this, but extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I'll say it again. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So anytime someone says something to you, there should be some sort of proof. There should be some sort of explanation. You should be able to ask them for it if you need. Applying it to logistics. If somebody says that they picked up a load, they should have a bill of lading. If they say they delivered a load, they should have a proof of delivery or a signed bill of lading. The bill of lading is the document that the shipper or the person that person picked up from is telling them, hey, I have given this to you. You have signed it. I have signed it. That is a legal document. Doesn't matter what else I say. That document is proof that what is on the back of that truck is supposed to be there. If they get pulled over by the police, they have to have that document. Same thing with the proof of delivery. No one is paying anything until we see there's a proof of delivery. I'm not paying the carrier because I don't know that they did their job. And even if I do know they did their job, I still have to have that proof. And the same thing up and down the supply chain. And the killing part about today is that data can be spoofed. So that bill of lading, you can generate a bill of lading with AI. You can modify it, all sorts of things. But if you're paying attention, and this is the key point in looking for proof, not just, oh, this is checking the box proof, but making sure, hey, this is what we said. If we say you're picking up this product ID, you hand me a piece of paper and that product ID doesn't match, I'm asking a lot of questions. If the ideas match, but something else looks wrong, I'm asking questions. Do the times make sense? You said you were picking up at 3. The document you handed me said you picked up at 10 the next day. This doesn't make sense. I'm going to look further at them. And if you're still not sure, call the shipper. Hey man, this guy says he was here, Billy Bob Joe. Was Billy Bob Joe there? Oh yeah, that guy. He was hairy, blah, 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 blah. Cool. I don't know who a Billy Bob Joe is. All right, we have a bigger problem. Hey man, where's Billy Bob Joe? I changed my driver. Okay, that's explainable. Can I talk to the driver? Yeah, sure, go ahead. Here's his number. Leave me alone. That's a great situation. As crazy as that sounds, I would rather get to the bottom of it and know that what's supposed to happen is happening. When I can't find proof, or when the proof gets more and more questionable, I'm asking questions. And speaking of questions, our third point, question urgency. If you're being pressured to do something, ask why. Now, don't go off the deep end with it. There is a world of difference between asking why and disrupting the chain of command. Your boss, your superior, parent, authority figure. There are times they're going to ask you to do something right away, and it's within the realm of normal. You should do that. The flip side of that, though, is if it's out of the realm of normal, they're asking you, they should give you some sort of explanation. But if they're not, you need to ask questions. An example of this, and it's a common scam, is a gift card request from an executive at your employer. You may not talk to that executive often, but you know that when he says jump, you ask how high. Now, the thing is that executive sends you a text, says, I need 20 gift cards, $50 each, $1,000, and I needed it yesterday. Get on it. Why is he reaching out to you? Why does he need it from you right away? He's the executive. He has a company card, all this other. Taking the 3 seconds there to think may save you from $1,000 mistake, or it shows your consciousness about your work. Call the executive. Hey, Mr. Exec, do you intend for me to do this? Oh yeah, I need this. This is what's going on. I'm at a client visit. I need this done. Okay, that makes sense. You call him and he says, I don't even know who you are. Or, oh, you're such and such from the Christmas party. That's weird. I never said anything like that. You saved yourself $1,000. You saved yourself potential embarrassment. But this isn't just a professional thing. This could be a work thing. This could be a personal life thing. Hi, I am a Nigerian prince. I need you to wire me $10,000 right away. This could be a scam call. This could be a hustler down the street, because what they're trying to do is take you out of bottom-up processing of thinking through things and trying to make it right away. Pausing 3 seconds to question something can save you a major loss. So in all of this, recognize that we've always had scams. We've always had scandals. There's always been change in the world, but now more than ever, it can be said that we live in a post-truth world, and people, companies, authority figures, institutions have incentive to lie to you. Now, your responsibility which comes with great power that we've unprecedented amount of power in terms of human history, is to make sure we're running our antivirus software, that we're politely skeptical and we're verifying things. And just a thought experiment: the next time you're at work, you're at school, you're in a role of seemingly low importance, think about what could happen if somebody had access to your system, your login, your cell phone for an hour, for 3 hours, for 24 hours. How much damage could they do? So ultimately, remember that responsibility is power, and we have the responsibility to trust but verify. This is Blue, coming at you with a round of quality content. Have a good night.